In order, please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do the roll call, Don here, Justin here, Nancy
Here.
AJ here, Owen here. Everybody's moved and accounted for. Take a motion to approve today's agenda.
Move to approve today's agenda.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we'll move on to the tourism director report.
Mr. Chairman, Lodgers Tax Board. Got a brief report to do on the tourism director report today. Mostly, we are moved into the visitor center. We have relocated into Frontier Plaza. We're at the south end. We've got some phones hooked up. We've got our copiers hooked up. All the staff is relocated there. Signage will start going up. We'll eventually get to a grand opening and things. We still have furnishings moving in. We still have our big screen to put up with the website on display. Brochure rack's still coming in. There's still work to be done. But we're getting there. One of the things we're working on is we're working on a relationship. We're trying to find a sponsor, one of the food providers, Cisco or Shamrock or one of the food companies. My goal is to have fresh baked cookies in that visitor center. Most of the time, we've got a kitchen area in there. They can provide us with a convection oven, trays, everything we need, napkins, the whole thing. Decorated as the Shamrock kitchen, have fresh baked cookies for guests coming in there. We'll get some nice notoriety and make that visitor center a source of pride for the community. We really want to step that up. Trini's in there working hard, Caroline's working hard, Brandon's going on events, so it's full mission now. We'll get into agenda items as we move on. I'll keep my report brief.
What are the days and hours?
The hours,
Yeah,
we're now 7 days a week, and we are 8 AM till 5 PM at this point in time. Those will be adjusted as we obviously go into holidays and busier times, stay open later in the evenings and those kind of things. So, but right now it's 8 to 5 Monday or 7 days a week.
thank you. All right, we'll move on to old business. The first item on old business is marketing agency proposal review and recommendation. I know that everybody on the committee had a chance to review the proposals. I would like if you could give a little more information on the committee.
Process and so forth.
There was our committee, but there was also a separate review committee that consisted of people that maybe had more marketing experience than necessarily versus this.
This RFP went out as a 40-page document. It was posted in 6 different publications, at least 6 times. So we threw out a big net to try to get as many responses as possible. The RFPs were due a few weeks ago. They were opened here in Village Hall with our procurement officer and the review committee that was put together to give the proposals their initial review. On most proposals that come back in that were sent out on an RFP process, there is a review committee that's set up. A lot of times, the review committee's recommendation goes straight to council. I was on the review committee for the legal, when they were looking for legal attorneys and so forth a few weeks ago. And our recommendations went straight to council from there. The review committee consisted of 4 members of the community. Brandon Prather, who he and his wife own their own marketing company. They've had it for a while. He's got some expertise in marketing, and now he's running our events here at the village. You had Michael Hawkins, who's the marketing director at the resort. You have Jennifer Gergen, who owns Smoke Rings Barbecue. I tried to bring in different elements of business into this thing, lodging, resort, village. And then you had Rocky Lira, our village clerk, who's done RFP process reviews before. They spent a good amount of time, most all of them were very serious at how they looked at the reviews. You have a tally of their scores. And that's sort of where we're at with that.
I mean, and this may be a question for Rocky or Jeff. I mean, what would the council be looking for? A ranking or single recommendation?
Council's gone off of recommendations from what I've seen in the
They
past.
basically go off the recommendations of the evaluation committee.
Okay.
That would be the most leverage, I think.
So looking for a single recommendation or an order of, top 3 in order, or those, would this be a single recommendation?
Depends on how the agenda was set up. I think they'd be looking for a single recommendation.
Okay.
I actually would question that, to be honest. I think they would probably want your top 3 in order. Something of that nature, but your strongest.
Strongest
To your-
recommendations. Okay. All right, well, I guess that we need to have a discussion amongst our group to see. I know that each member had a chance to review each one. We've gotten the proposal from the review committee. I mean, I don't know whether we want to discuss. Each of us talk about which one we would put as our 1, 2, and 3.
Would you agree with that, Bill?
I would just think that our last one that we had to come before us, we had the recommendation, but we had the 3 highest scores that we in our packet that we could see the scores. We just,
Yeah, it was Bill Humpert, one of our council people. So. I mean, I would open it to anybody who wants to maybe go first as far as who they would put as their 1, 2, and 3. And then maybe we can come down to a consolidation, or would we individually vote on, I mean, just kind of go down and. Does anybody have any input on who they felt was the highest ranked?
Well, I mean, I think we all are most familiar with Carisco because we've had more interaction with them. They made a great proposal. And I feel very comfortable with their proposal. And, I have more knowledge from them, but I have no issues with them being ranked number 1 here. It was close between Cottonwood, which made a nice proposal as well. I thought Cottonwood was very good, and these are so close, it's kind of a toss-up here. And I don't know exactly your scoring system, the criteria you used here, but I spent some time looking at all of these, and I don't know if I'm exactly in the order that you had it, but it's pretty close.
Anybody else in the committee have input?
I'm similar with Don. I have Crystal as my number 1 and Cottonwood is my number 2, mainly because of what they can provide, and they're also New Mexico based. That's what I kind of went by. My 3rd choice would probably be Zimmerman or Infinite, mainly just because they are more worldwide, it looks like. They have a lot of destinations. I went to all their websites, looked at all their information. The only problem I had with Cottonwood is they've been in business only about 5 years, and their biggest budget was about 300,000. That was the only problem, but they were in New Mexico. But probably my number one would be Cristo, Cottonwood, and third would be close between Infinite and Cove.
Would you like to know the scoring criteria? Would you like
Sure, I would, yeah.
clarification on that? Sorry to interrupt, Nancy. They were rated on value and cost effectiveness, in-house capacity, agency capabilities and experience. And then their ability to promote Angel Fire as a leisure destination and a, family destination. It's fairly standard RFP judging criteria, cost effectiveness and cost.
Thank you.
Okay, I liked Zimmerman, but I felt it was very open-ended. I didn't know exactly how much everything was gonna cost, so I felt like that was kind of open-ended. I liked it. I thought it was a fresh pair of eyes instead of it being somebody we've already had or that was looking at it. So I wound up with Caristo. The only problem I had with this is when we were first negotiating with them, we had a whole lot more information, and I didn't see but a couple of pages where it was monthly cost. And then I felt it was gonna be kind of added on per hour. So I like them first. That's my number one. Zimmerman would be number two, and Infinite would be number three.
Well, checked out the websites. I was focusing on, reviews, complaints, anything of that nature. I also was considering locations, where main offices were, for example, it seems to be a lot of base. Took that in consideration, because there's so many, ski towns and such in Colorado, they have, a lot of things to review and perhaps, help us here in Angel Fire. I went with Caristo, Cottonwood, and Infinite. Again, the Caristo, we had such an outstanding, in my opinion, just the way they presented everything. I like the fact that they know Angel Fire. That's a fantastic advantage that we have with an advertising company, in my opinion. They love the area, they're very familiar with the area. That's what I'm leaning towards. Mason Rose was very good too, but I just didn't have, the reviews were outstanding, but there's very few reviews to reflect on, and I really have no idea where they're based out of.
Dallas.
Is it Dallas?
I think so.
I wasn't really sure. I can quite because
I think it's Dallas.
is it Dallas?
I felt like the cost of all of them were a little bit difficult to disseminate, what it really was gonna cost too. The way, and nobody was perfectly clear. I thought, there's a lot of open-ended stuff, like you said, Nancy, on hourly rates, which vary a lot in here. Monthly costs vary a lot. But, I don't know, what's all said and done, if they weren't gonna be fairly close, or if there were gonna be some pretty wide numbers that what looks like to be just first glance, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Ray probably has more experience in that. You can probably.
Yeah, I dug in and I dove through them to actually try to get a monthly retainer fee out of them. Zimmerman was the highest at $30,000. Infinite was 27.5. The rest were right around 18 to 15,000 a piece for retainer costs. That's where they lie.
Mine was pretty similar to Don's. As far as I kind of put a little bit more of a priority, I hate somebody having to relearn our area every time. Um. And really the two that are based here, and then Mason Rose isn't, but. You know, I may have to kind of, I don't know, recuse myself because we use them for our marketing. So, you know, I know they've come here, they're very familiar with the area. That's why I put them in the top three, just because, you know, they know Angel Fire. And that's kind of, we're a very unique town. I mean, we're not like in most of those Colorado towns, you know, we have a different mix, we're a country club. It's kind of a little bit of a hybrid situation, so. I would have put them in the same order, that Don had said, this a lot of times because of that. I mean, I guess if nobody has any additional input, what I can do is. Is kind of just go down. The list here, and people can state what's their one, and then we can tally them, and then we can present. The top three that come in, I mean, we can. Just from people's input, I can kind of see where it's leaning, from that standpoint, but. We can do that officially, and then we can make our, once we get that total, then, we can have a motion from someone. To make, that official recommendation. Do you have a input?
I have one other thing I should, disclose or input. I have worked with 3 of the agencies that we've received proposals from. Caristo in my time here, Cottonwood was my staff at the resort primarily, just full disclosure. Great ladies. Lauren and Vanessa, can't say enough great things about them. They brought in Brandy, our designer, who is based out of Spain, also a great lady. So and then Mason Rose, I worked with when I was Lodgers Tax Chair, and they started doing some stuff for the village when they were involved then. So I have a background with all 3, and I just wanted to let that be known. And I don't have anything bad to say about any of them.
That was really interesting to see all the proposals and thoughts that people had, and. Yeah, I wish I was probably a little more. Familiar with it, same with the pricing that Don had mentioned, trying to decipher those. It's a little bit complicated, so. All right, well, what I'll do is I'll just go down the list and, if, we'll just go each person and they'll say 1 through 5 or 1 through 6. So, 4 columns, Don?
As far as ranking,
Yeah,
actually had them, above, Zimmerman, believe it or not, just because they are also local. Do some local work here and familiar with Angel Fire. I had them rated a little higher than, the ranking here, but, I mean, I just felt like Zimmerman was, for me,
so you put up 5.
I would put 4 columns at 5. And, Zimmerman, well, for me, is the last on the list, only because I thought they were not as familiar with our area, and they're a big company. I just didn't feel like we would be as important as maybe to some of these others. And then otherwise, I'm the Cristo first, Cottonwood second. Pretty even with the Mason Rose. Cottonwood, and it would be a tie for me. And then Infinite and 4 columns, Zimmerman.
Okay, Justin?
I'm pretty similar to that. I would say Cristo number 1, Cottonwood number 2. 3 probably Infinite, 4 probably Mason Rose. And Zimmerman and 4 columns. And I agree with Don. I mean, I looked up Zimmerman. I mean, they're owning. They were bought out in 2004 by Omnicon, and I mean, we could get lost in
They're
there.
a giant,
They're
corporation, yeah. That was my only concern there.
So I had, this is in my order, would be, Caristo, Cottonwood, Mason Rose, then Four Columns. Then I had, Infinite. And then Zimmerman. Nancy?
Caristo, one, Zimmerman, Infinite, Four Columns, Cottonwood, and Rose.
AJ?
Briscoe, Cottonwood, Infinite, Mason Rose, Zimmerman, Four Columns.
Based off these, we have Bristow 1. Cottonwood 2. Yeah, add them up. And Infinite 3. I'll entertain a motion for making a recommendation of Bristow 1, Cottonwood 2, Infinite 3.
I'll make a motion. that Those are our order for recommendation of council.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Owen, a question, I don't have it in front of me. Is that similar as the review committee's order was?
It was a little off from the review committee. Just because when I did the totals,
Infinite and Mason Rose were very close.
those two were close. The total on Mason Rose was 711 was 20. And then the total on Infinite was 7, 20, 10, 18. So technically they had a lower number, which was, I guess, a more improved ranking.
But both the review committee and the Lodgers Tax Board have number 1 and 2.
Same.
All right. Move on to new business. The first item is event schedule.
All right, one of the missions here is to put together 10 major events a year. We have an event manager now. We've got time between now and our major event seasons. Brandon's working on some things that, short-term things. We've got Oktoberfest coming up. We've got a tree lighting ceremony. We've got the flakes. I'm calling all flakes. So we're bringing back some of the old events that we've done before. And you've got a tentative schedule that's been put in front of you that shows something almost every month of the year. So we're really about building these things out. I got a text or a phone call from Owen last night with a great idea about the sun signs, winter, the equinox and the solstice and stuff, and doing events around those kind of things. And when we look at our schedule, we do have events around those times. So maybe it's a rebranding, a turning them into festivals, a bringing up of all of Owen's pagan buddies for these things. So I'm sorry. But it's a good opportunity to really harness the events that we're trying to build upon. Anybody have any questions, comments about that schedule, things we can get Brandon on right now? Before we talk about the next great exciting thing, our event center.
The air show, that's already in the works.
Yeah, we're talking to Fraser on that. Nancy's got some female pilots that may want to get involved, but we're, trying to make that a whole aviation week at time in June.
If you're gonna do the kite festival then too, I know that's my.
Oh, yeah, that's in there.
Just make sure if you're gonna do it at the softball fields, to make sure get in early with, Shay, to see if the fields are even available during the air show.
Yeah.
There may be a softball tournament then, who knows?
I liked having a lot more events. I mean, that's how I think our town's been missing.
Well, and the goal is not just entertainment events, but events that bring people to town. We've got to keep growing lodgers tax revenue, and the way to do that is multi-day events. So that's the mission Brandon has.
Yeah, and you know, from those events, I mean, you have to really do them multi-year before you start getting a following and
Mhm.
everything, and sometimes we feel like we kind of abandon those events.
Too early. When we've joined the New Mexico Brewers Guild, we're the only community that's a member of that. So they're gonna help us with getting brewers in here for our smaller events, and then help us roll into a major Oktoberfest next year. So we're setting the groundwork to get things going, so we can really harness our event things.
Nice.
I know before COVID, we have Angel Fire Movie Festival. We used to do the Telluride Film Festival.
Yep, we did it at the resort.
I really enjoyed it. I
Yep.
thought it was a lot of fun.
Yep,
So,
that's what we were talking about the other day, is
Right.
how to get those guys back.
yeah, that would be awesome.
I could tell them to the next time.
And anybody have any event ideas, we're hungry, we're looking to blow stuff up, Scott.
One thing I wanted to.
If you want to, just come up here and
Yeah, you could come up and announce your name and so that people.
make it official.
I'm Scott Newfold. I'm the publisher of Enchanted Outpost magazine, and I have a small agency here, running an agency in Arizona for 16 years. Rebranded 2 cities, so I have a lot of experience in a lot of the things you're talking about. And I've actually been talking to Greg about seeing how I can get more involved in helping out the community. You mentioned film festival. Got a good friend that has a house in Red River, and he's out of Texas. And he's been running proposals through the village of Red River to bring a film festival there. And he was gonna put it in association with the wine tasting event they have there. But I wanted to find out, is there a possibility that, I mean, should I have him come here and propose his idea to bring the film festival
Yes.
here?
Yes.
Okay.
That was easy. What else you got?
I was born and raised in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, which is where the headquarters of the EAA, which is the air show, the national fly-in. And I actually happen to have friends that are affiliated and associated with the EAA. In fact, my 6th grade girlfriend, her family runs the seaport for the fly-in for seaplanes. So I might be able to reach out to a few people, that are associated with the EAA, which is the largest fly-in in the world, and see if I might be able to help bring in
Yes.
some exposure there. So that's all I have for now.
And see, that's the great thing about having a calendar of event.
Yeah.
Get people who are like, oh, it's just gonna,
And of course, we're always open to helping expose the village more in the magazine. We have subscribers now in 17 states for the magazine, so we have a calendar. I'll work with Greg to make sure that a lot of the stuff gets put in the calendar as well.
Nice.
we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
As we build out these events, one of the things we're seeing is that we're gonna need a lot of volunteers. We're gonna be taking over Cool Summer Nights. We've got the air show. I know how hard it is to get volunteers for things. I've got this nice wall in the chamber office that we are gonna turn into our volunteers wall. And we're gonna start recognizing individuals and businesses in this community for the volunteer efforts they put in. We're gonna put them up there. We'll get them in our newsletters. We'll promote them and keep them enthusiastic about helping us out on these events. Because what's happened in some of them, we've burned out our volunteer base and the events went away. So we're really trying to set the groundwork to get these things done right. Now, next thing on the agenda?
Oh, yes. And I will throw in my summer solstice concept was. My winter solstice was winter solstice disco inferno, so.
Pagan Fest.
All right, we'll move on to the next item, number 2, event facility ideas.
Okay. As we know, there will be development done back here in the near future and right over here. There's a new fire station that's gonna go in right here. It's on the side of the sign. Entrance to 434 that'll come back this way. The old fire station will go away. It's in bad shape and they really need that new facility. Part of the other thing that's gonna come back here is a conference meeting, convention, community center type of facility with a park and those kind of things. One of the things I don't have much of in life is patience and waiting for my conference, events, meeting facility thing could be longer than I'm gonna be alive in reality. And the other day, Owen and Jeff and I ran into each other and came up with this concept is I asked about, can I get a tent? Can I rent or buy? And after we've done some research, it's a lot cheaper to buy a circus tent than to rent one. A nice tent that would hold 400 or 500 people. Some sod outside of it, restroom trucks, a stage, and build a temporary event type center facility. We've got the land, there's water back there, there's sewer back there, and there's electricity back there. It's been used for other events before. They did Oktoberfest back there. I've talked to Oliver, who did his skate event last year at 4th of July, about making that longer. Can I have that skate park back there for the whole month of July? What's stopping us? So Brandon and I last week, amazingly, Brandon started Googling everything he could about tents. You know, temporary ones, semi-permanent, what are the things that are needed? What's the total cost? A tent will cost between 30 and 50 grand. You're looking at the side costs and those things of about 20 grand. We could do something back there that would allow us to host bigger events, bigger bands, things that will bring people to the community. Right now, I'm doing things in Frontier Park, the Cool Summer Nights and the Farmers Market. I can't bring a bigger band in the Cool Summer Nights. We're exceeding the capacity of the park. And I really need a bigger band to bring in fans to put lodger's tax in our coffers. I can't just be providing entertainment. It's gotta have a goal behind it. So that's something we're gonna be researching. And I wanted to get some feedback from the committee on, is it something we see that we would get behind? I know 3 of us are.
Well, I mean, and one thing that Greg didn't mention is I hate that we're so weather dependent here. You know, a third of the Cool Summer Nights don't get to go the full length. Just because it starts raining and pouring down. You know, the farmers markets, everything. If we could have a facility that's not weather dependent, we could have more stability with our events. And people would know that, oh yeah, it's gonna go off, or I can still go even though it looks like it's gonna rain. And I think we'd have better attendance.
Greg, about parking, are you gonna be using like the black lot or will there be?
No,
parking?
there's behind the fire station, and towards North Angel Fire Road is a lot that's owned by the resort. I've contacted John Kitts to talk about joint development of that lot as a parking lot that we would use in the summer and they would use in the winter, because we don't need it at the same time. So it may be something we can work with the resort where we do the maintenance on it and he'd give us a cheap lease or something. So that's one of the things that I've got a meeting request in with Mr. Kitts right now to discuss that.
Just out of curiosity, when concert events get rained out, do they get rescheduled or is that
No.
money just lost?
No. The bands that we've been hiring are $2,000, $3,000 bands.
Yeah.
They're paid for that 2-hour set. If they show up and they start pretty much. This summer, we've been pretty lucky. We've gotten full sets out of most everybody. The problem is the band's covered, but the crowd's not. So the crowd's leaving. And the band's still playing and the band plays on. And it's just, so that's sort of hard. Bill's out there dancing in the rain.
Seen pictures.
I thought the other thought about it is that it's kind of like a trial balloon to see, you know, if we have something like this, would people come and do more? And then if it turns out, yeah, then we can look at something more permanent, which was something I've always wanted. You know, I've shown everybody up here in the committee that they're called riding stables that horses, you know, they have horse events under that are open air, kind of like a tent. And I would love to have something like that in that area, but you know, having a tent is kind of like a temporary version of that, and then we can see. Is this something that would bring more events to us? And then having that parking lot would be great, because we have a lot of issues here with. Overflow parking, and so that would actually help with that a lot.
Just out of curiosity, would that be rentable?
The tent is rentable, but the cost of renting.
No, I mean.
Oh, for, yes, yes, anything, this meeting and conference facility, the goal is to have it available for weddings, meetings, conferences, and have someone booking those things and providing those services. So we can collect some revenue there as well, and utilize those facilities on a full-time basis. Yeah, so the tent, birthday parties, you know, softball league, tournament parties or whatever, yeah. Without competing with the community center, yes.
And you know, the additional parking will overflow for hikers, bikers, you know, and all of that, so people have a place to park. There's limited parking for those areas, you know, and on the Trails Committee, we're gonna try to connect the Frank Young Trail to the softball fields. So that'll all be like right there. That's just due east of the facility.
Anybody else have any questions on it? I mean, I would just say. See, I'm interested. We would have interested in getting a proposal from our tourism committee.
We will, we'll button it down, we'll narrow it down to suppliers, we'll start working with planners. I've got to get back there with Kurt Epler, Director of Public Works, walk the area, see exactly what's needed. Obviously, try to move as fast as possible so we have this thing up by next spring. But I hopefully have something for next month's meeting to look at.
Come on up.
One more question. Maybe you said something I didn't hear. What would be the capacity of that?
What are we looking at?
That 40 by 100, 40 by 120 that are there, I think, that holds up to 600 people, with sitting in like a chair.
Not the 1,000, 2,000 we'd like, but let's start.
There's bigger ones. You want to go bigger?
And this is
It's not
years,
space that we were worried about. We got plenty of space.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure.
years ago, I know all the pueblos down by Espanola used to keep all the casinos in tents.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they still have any sitting around, but.
Those are
Well,
those are sprung structures, and I do have a background with those, and we've looked at those as well. Those are semi-permanent. They can't come down, so if you're, it's not something you
Okay.
put it up.
Sure.
And we'd like to have something we could take down for winter, so it doesn't get so trashed.
Mhm.
So that's one of our goals. But those sprung structures actually last a lot longer than what they were designed for. They're pretty nice, and you get a lot of square footage cheap.
The Pro Shop was in it for a while.
Yeah.
I never saw it, but yes.
Yeah.
Good. I was just gonna say, I think, what I think is fascinating to me about the permanent or semi-permanent structure is, you know, when you have to take a tent down, you can't really host any events over the winter when we have a lot of people here. You know, so, I mean, I could envision several events in the winter time that I wouldn't be able to host in that tent if we had to take it down.
Yeah. It would be nice to have something that's weather resistant.
Yeah.
We're looking at that as well.
Yeah.
But you've got the fire requirements. There's gotta be a lot of fire extinguishers. There's so, it's tight. Getting tents permitted is tighter than buildings, I think.
Will this tent have sides?
Yes. Yeah, it'd have to have some weather.
Roll up, roll down.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely, you know, nice day, get them up.
Yeah, cause if you had a concert in there that needed more than 500 seats.
Yeah,
you've got
obviously,
A lot of standing room only, people are gonna come stand around if it's, the
Yeah.
weather's nice.
yeah. And when we started this, we didn't have the sod or the lawn in the plan. It's like, no, I need the lawn. I need a place for people to sit down. I need 10,000 square foot of lawn. That's the traction. We'll come up with a plan, some renderings and,
Yeah, and I like the idea, of, you know, what, more of a takedown in the winter and a permanent.
yeah, we'll come up with the options.
Well, especially since this is the test pilot for the growth, you know, the idea is this is temporary anyway.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. May I speak?
Oh, come on. That's not my meeting, you know.
Bill Humber.
You can't see me.
Council President.
About a month and a half ago, Mayor Lindsay asked me if I would work with Chief Vance and with Greg on the development of this and getting the fire station going. And one of the things we talked about is this needed to be surveyed as soon as possible because we can't get drawings or anything done until that's done. I think all the surveying has been finished. I noticed just a couple of days ago, he was packing everything up and leaving. He was way over there. So I think he's finished, which means we can start working with design engineer to begin to design what we want that to be in the future. And we could probably include in this design the temporary thing that you're talking about. But it's and after we met here 2 weeks ago, I met with Chief Vance yesterday and I wanted to have another meeting this next week. All of a sudden, my calendar just filled up, so I'm gonna put it off until the following week. And I have asked you to be a part of that also, because you have a lot of vision and you don't mind sharing it. But hopefully Mayor Lindsay will be back and maybe we can meet a time when he can. And within a few weeks, we may begin to have some idea of how that's going to look back there. Because we kind of have to have a visions for the design and for the architects to kind of make a drawing of what we want it to be. And it's kind of exciting. It really is, because we've got all of that out there. It would be a wonderful event thing. And, you know, nice restrooms, nice meeting areas, and a concert, band shell, whatever you want to call it, and with covered and uncovered areas. And it's really exciting, but that's going to take a long time to do. So what you're looking at, I think, is a real good approach.
And it'd be nice to have that vision so we know where to put our things.
Yes.
To stay out of the
Yes.
way as things start being built around it.
well, and also as part of the comprehensive plan.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's that.
I'm on that meeting. Anyway, I hope maybe within a couple of months, we will have some rendition of drawings of some sort.
Cool. Anybody else in the committee have anything? All right, then we'll move on to item 3, approval of $327.74 lodger's tax refund to Mr. Duffy for overpayment. Anybody else who's gonna,
Oh, Uh. Councilman, Mr. Duffy, has a company that works with him to pay the lodger's tax. For him, and I guess there was a miscommunication between the company and him, and so he inadvertently paid taxes. On his own, along with the company, and so he's requesting a reimbursement. And, so we're looking at the reimbursement, the period of, I think it was 4 or 5 months, I believe. Came up to a total of $327, refund to him.
and you've confirmed that he did double pay it?
Yes, we did.
Okay,
We do have a breakout sheet,
okay.
so.
I would accept a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion to approve the refund to Mr. Duffy, $327.74.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Appreciate everybody coming. This meeting's closed.